At the Rajasthan Royals found their mojo. They seem to have found their batting order right. We've got Tom Moody joining us on Whirlpool Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout powered by Dell. 177 for six. Tom, would you say the Royals would have taken this score at the start of the innings, or will they be disappointed with not having got that end over flourish?
I think they'll be over the moon. As I said at the beginning of the innings, I thought they'd be initially setting themselves for around about that 160 mark, knowing that the wicket can get a little bit slower. But because they managed to bat deep and have the likes of Smith and Butler sort of have that critical partnership in the middle of 50 plus, it enabled them to really maximise and get a very good total. Look, in the last 5 overs, they got 56 runs, which I think is a very, very good return. But there was 2 overs, 2 very good overs from a bowling perspective in those last 5 overs. The last one from Morris that only went for 4 was the real standout.
Right, let's talk about the positives, because after a long time, they did really well with the bat in the power play. Looks like for Robin Uthappai, it was Liberation Day, wasn't it?
Yeah, look, I'm sure once the news came his way that he was going to open the batting, he would have been doing cartwheels. He spent most of his career at the top of the order, and he's so familiar with the newer ball, the ball coming onto the bat, the fielding side having the restrictions with only 2 outfielders, so it allows him to play with freedom. And he looked like he hadn't missed an opening innings for many years. It was like duck to water. He went out there and played his shots and played with freedom, timed the ball beautifully, and got them off to a real flyer. His 41 off the 22 balls was critical in their whole quest to maximise their team total.
Right, very quiet first 2 overs. The team was at 5 for no loss after the first 2 overs, and then it looked like Robin Uthappai said, "Look, I've seen enough. It's time to get going." And how quickly things change in this format when the batsman wants to show intent.
Yeah, look, it can happen very quickly, and more often than not, it happens once a batsman is a little bit settled and adjusted to, the conditions out there. There's not every surface you can walk out to bat and play your shots from the get-go, but they made the adjustments very quickly and got off to what was a very good start. So this is a total that's going to really challenge RCB.
Right, Smith as well, 57 of 36. Even in his case, it looked like he wanted to spend some time. He was playing at a runner ball at the start of his innings, and then showed that his batting has many more gears than one might think.
Yeah, well, he played very well, didn't he? And, that's the template. I think, Smith is more like the Smith that we know, someone that gives himself a chance to get in, get settled, goes a runner ball for the first 10 to 15 balls, because we know once he's in, he's got an array of shots. He seems to find pockets in the field that, no other can. He's very unique, as we know. It doesn't matter what format that he plays. He's very unique with his style. And I'd imagine once he's set like that, he's very difficult to bowl to.
Right. That Chahal over where things seem to change a little bit. There was a bit of a mini collapse. Robin Uthappai had just gotten out of the previous delivery, and then that shot by Samson. Tom, is having situational awareness that difficult for a player at this level?
Not difficult at all. That was unacceptable, and I'm sure that he will know that as he's walking off the field, that the rush of blood was one that was a very costly one at that point. And it could have potentially derailed Rajasthan's quest to really get a total. It just puts unnecessary pressure on 2 new batsmen to reset, and that's why that partnership I felt with Smith and Butler was a real key partnership, because it just stabilised the innings. They went for a runner ball, just to tick over a runner ball for a few overs to reset, and then they launched from that point. Look, Butler didn't go on with it. He fell for 24, but Smith was the one that carried the flag and made sure that Rajasthan maximised that total.
Right, we'll come once again to the Butler batting position a little later, but just a quick word on Yuzvendra Chahal. He got hit for that monster 6 of his first delivery, but then got those 2 wickets. Perhaps a sign of how a leg spinner can be rewarded if he has the guts and the gumption to toss it up, and that's what Chahal did today.
Yeah, look, he's a smart bowler, isn't he? He's a very clever bowler. He also does get the ball to turn both ways. So he's always going to challenge the batsman. And I think at the end of the day, whether you're a wrist spinner or any sort of spinner, you need to be brave in this format of the game. And you are, particularly Chahal's role, is a role where, he's expected to take wickets. And he's not going to be taking wickets if he bowls conservatively. So he needs to, at times toss the ball up, be brave, look to spin it hard and take those wickets because, he's bowling in phases of the game where his captain's hoping he's going to be taking wickets.
Right, it's been a pretty good batting performance from the Rajasthan Royals, but just one question on Butler. Would you rather have Butler open with Uthappa and allow Ben Stokes to go wild in the lower middle order alongside Tewatia, or do you think this current combination works for them?
Personally, I'm happy with this combination. To me, my main point at the start of play was I felt Butler needed to move down the order. Whether they keep Stokes at the top of the order or not, I don't think is a critical decision. I think the critical decision was biting the bullet and getting Butler into the middle order, purely because they've got too many players that are more suited to opening the batting and aren't as suited to be batting in the middle. So they needed just to move a couple of pieces around in that top six just to get the balance they needed.
What's your assessment of the pitch from this far? Because it didn't look like Smith struggled too much with his stroke play. Uthappa played freely as well. So is it going to change in the second innings for RCB?
Yeah, look, it's a difficult call for us this far away to be making a judgment on the pitch. But to me, it's a new ball wicket. So I'm sure it's important for RCB to make sure they get off to a bit of a flyer in the power play. So the likes of Finch will need to strap in and play some shots early to get them off to a minimum of a 50 or 50 plus total in that first 6 overs to set up this run chase. So I've got a feeling that the pitch itself is going to slow down as the innings unfolds when the ball gets a little bit softer. And I think if you're bowling the right length, stump to stump, and particularly bowling to that big side, there's one very big side of the ground, it may be a very tricky total to chase down.
Also a big stat for Virat Kohli to worry about, or maybe not given what happened in that last game. Shreyas Gopal has got de Villiers' wicket 4 times in 5 matches. Should he even think about it? Or if he finds any stats person coming close to him with that number, just brush him aside saying, no, I'm going to make amends for what I did in the last game and send AB where he deserves to go.
Well, AB de Villiers is the best T20 player in the world, currently, and I think we've seen him sort of cast his magic, already in this tournament, and I just absolutely baffled to why you'd want to be moving AB de Villiers away from that position at 4, just on the basis of a left-right hand combination. I think at the end of the day, those numbers speak for themselves. Extraordinary, striking at nearly 180, averaging 46. Why would you ever want to be moving him around? If anything, you want to be moving him the other direction where he's facing more balls to have a bigger impact.
Do teams overdo this whole left-right combination business? Have you, as a coach, wondered that at times maybe people tend to intellectualize too much and forget about cricketing logic? Is left-right overdone, do you think? Yeah,
look, I think it's really important to consider, the left-right hand combinations in batting orders. It's also important to consider matchups, bowling matchups with your opposition batsman. But at the end of the day, I think you also need to cast a little bit of logic around some of that decision making. And it just because statistically it shows there may be a 10 or a 15% greater impact in you making that decision. There's other factors that come into play as well. And in the AB de Villiers situation, the other factor was he is in sublime form. He's coming off an incredible innings and he's such a dangerous player. Why would you starve him from getting out into the middle to be able to have an impact when he is, right on top of his game and one of the game's greatest?
Right, only one left-hander in Padikkal in the RCB top order. And so how would you use Tewatia and Shreyas Gopal's overs use a lot of their overs in the first 6 or 8 overs?
Yeah, look, I think, again, that judgment needs to be made out in the middle to, how the RCB top order are looking to attack this innings. I would probably steer away from the left-hander and make sure that there are sufficient overs up the sleeve for Rajasthan to make sure they can have an impact against the right-handers. But I wouldn't get too wrapped up with it. I would be, basically making the bowling changes based on the game situation, just making sure that I'm getting the right, bowler on at the right time without getting too wrapped up whether it's a right or left-hander on strike.
Right. We've seen Yuzvendra Chahal do well. We've seen Rashid Khan bowl at his best. Why has Gopal not been able to be as successful as them? Is he doing something wrong, or is it just a case of things not coming off?
Yeah, look, I think, Rajasthan also have, a side that were exposed to Sharjah early in the tournament. And from a bowling perspective, that is a bit of a graveyard. You don't want to be starting your tournament in an environment where, your spin bowlers are nearly out of the game before the match starts because of the flatness of the surface and the size of the ground. So, confidence is a big thing. I would be backing Gopal. I think that he will definitely come good, particularly as the surfaces in the UAE start to slow down and turn a little bit more. He's got a wonderful record. So what has happened in the previous weeks, I wouldn't be, reading too much into that, because I think there's a lot of things that are going to go his way moving forward.
Right, RC, we've got to make amends for what happened in that last game. We'll have to figure where AB de Villiers bats, possibly higher up the order, but it's really up to Finch and Padikkal to get them going. 178. What's the kind of approach you expect from Finch and Padikkal in the first 6? Be watchful, take a leaf out of Steve Smith's book, Uttappa's book, or just go all guns blazing and trust Kohli to do the job if there's trouble at the top?
Yeah, look, I think the simple fact is, I think the best time to be batting will be against that new ball. So it'll be important for Finch and Padikkal to make sure they, really do have an impact in those first 6 overs. So I'd certainly imagine they'll be aware of that, and they'll be looking to, take on those power play overs and be at least 50 in those first 6 overs to be able to set up their chase.
For which they'll have to really go after Jofra Archer. How do you see that matchup, Archer versus Finch?
Yeah, look, Archer against anyone is a very tough ask for the batsman, because he's clearly on top of his game. He's a wonderful bowler. And, there are certain bowlers and there's certain matchups you need to respect. And I think Archer's one of those. There's no point playing recklessly against Archer and losing your wicket, or RCB losing a couple of wickets just thinking that, they need to, take Archer down. Well, that to me is not smart cricket. You in a way, you don't want to be over conservative against Jofra Archer, but you need to be totally aware that he is their impact bowler. If they can see Archer out and deny him wickets, and his 4 overs go at, say, 7 and over, that should be their target. And if they get to that situation, they can then attack the rest of their bowling attack.
Right, they do have an extra batting cushion in Shahbaz Ahmed, should they need him. But that one moment in his debut game, that terrific catch on the boundary, just shows that these guys represent the new age of cricket, don't they?
Yeah, look, it was a wonderful catch, wasn't it? Never easy when you're dealing with the boundary rope as well, sort of not understanding exactly how close you are to the fence. It was stated that, early in the game that, this kid can field and he's a gun fielder. But you're right, this day and age, there's no hiding. There's very few young cricketers coming through the system that don't have that quality in the field. It's such an important element. And as we saw this evening, that, it can make a difference, because if Smith was there until the very end, they may have pushed into the mid-180s.
But 178 it is for the RCB to chase for their 6th win in the tournament. Tom, would you hazard a guess on who's winning this one?
Look, I think, put it this way, I think Rajasthan Royals are in the stronger position. So I think RCB will need to bat exceptionally well to chase this down. But you never write off a run chase when Kohli's in charge.
And then they have a man called Mr. 360, who is a bit of a 24/7, 365 kind of player. So it should be an interesting chase. And of course, Whirlpool presents ESPN Cricket for T20 powered by Dell will be back. Rona Kapoor will be joining Tom Moody and Ajit Agarkar in a show that's right after this game. Also looking ahead to Delhi Capitals versus CSK. That's up in Sharjah later tonight. Thanks so much, Tom, for joining us. Our viewers will see you in about an hour and a half from now.